Hello, this is Gerald Turvanmas. In this video I will demonstrate how Hiragana letters, the Japanese script, can be recognized as a logical system, just in the same way as we have that logical system in Roman letters, and that also has reference points that you can use in time and space so that you can see why it is used, how it is used, and so on. Let's go and find out. So the katakana script, I already told you, are letters that are usually, is a script that usually has references to, for instance, also foreign words, words that are not commonly used and commonly have associations that are in balance with each other and already trying to balance themselves out. No, they have to find a balance in what already exists. So what will be dominating and in the script itself is that we use them to go forward with them, but also take a step back. So it means with this forward move and diagonal taking a step back is written in almost every of these letters in the background, or is playing with it. It means that it has this idea that we have to adapt it a little bit to what we already know, the known certainties before us. Every letter in the Chinese and Japanese script is it has a reference point to another point in time, a balance in time, and the way how we can find a balance there by having a point in time elsewhere. And that's where you have that all these letters in that region, in that green region that you can see there, are all the letters described and can be understood from that position. And we are the observant, and so we fall back on what we know, of course, the common good, as we see. That's why a letter that we words that we adapt from elsewhere, we also take them with us, but they have to take a step back to what we already have that is in balance with each other. And the Roman script itself has a foundation in that can be everywhere in space. So before you, in one focus, a double focus in time space, or a triple focus of what is lying in the background. The basics are there is the spatial perspective, the A is the perspective itself, the T is the functionality that we have before us. That's also the same thing that we use as a reference point before us. There are the letters of T and A already presented there. What is different with the Hiragana script? The Hiragana script also uses this idea of placement, as we have that in space, but this placement, so the cross, let's say, the horizontal and the vertical, without much of the diagonal, so without much of the adaptation, so it is in balance. It is in balance with horizontal and vertical. That also will be dominating more in the Hiragana script than, for instance, the katakana script, because here it is, we know we start from a balance. We start from what we know as what is a balance. So we have this placed timing in the background as a structure which you can recognize in all of the letters and characters. What is now the purpose of representing it like that? So we have a placement in space, we have a placement in a timing. Why is it so? We place it in timing so that we can repeat what we know in space and can repeat it elsewhere, somewhere else. And so when we have a different perspective elsewhere, that it will look the same, it will have the same balance, and so on. And that's why we have this timing point. This time point is an observed point where we find common perspective of foundations. So all the words have to deal with a kind of, let's check out the balance. Let's check out if this balance is there. With the katakana script, it has to become founded in the same balance. So forward, taking a step back, with the, this new script, we will find out that we have a common point of reference that we can repeat elsewhere as well, so that we can use it in a general sense. That's what is basically our goal also for the letter A. That's our goal. The letter A is a foundation of what we have, but this foundation should also be checked that we can repeat it. So our first idea is the same as in the Roman script. We have a placement. The placement of A is like that perspective. You can see that perspective. You have found the perspective before you in space, in one point in space, in one reference point in space. The same idea is also with timing. That means when something changes, when something happens, is this still the same? And so what it deals with of course the horizontal and the vertical, but also with the repetition. So you have the A as a first placement, and the small a is, as a matter of speaking, as the way to repeat it. I can repeat my a, I can repeat my first idea, and if it's repeatable, if I can repeat it, okay, then it is has also something general. There's a different way of thinking in Romans, with the Roman script and with the or with the Latin script, or whatever you call it. There is a difference in thinking. We experiment a little bit, like, let's see if this is repeatable. We don't care. We use it as we think and please it, because we use it as one point, and then okay, maybe we change it and so on. The Hiragana script here uses, no, it has to have our foundation that we have already, and that foundation should be repeatable. It's in a way it's the same thing. It should be repeatable, but it's not experimental. It is more like an idea. It should be repeatable from the start. But we could, of course, check it as well. Is that true? Is it still true? We check every value each time again via the first letter. There's an order in the letter combinations. We first start with the vowels. We have A as one of the vowels, and the first combination with the vowels is with the letter K. K is making it questionable. So it is checking out if we still have all the conditions. Do we still have the conditions? Is it relevant? Is it relevant to all times? And is it relevant to time in general? And can we notice its potential? So it is this question that we can have here. That's the Ka. Ka is daring that question. It's just like, I dare to ask that question if it is repeatable, if it is a value, a foundation that can stand and survive on its own without having to be broken apart, without having to change it, and so on. We check it if it is stable. So it is the conditions, the founding conditions are questioned, so that not that we should change things that we should have changed, no, so that the activity that we make can see if the things that are stable and passive can remain stable and passive, and if they are not stable, we make them again towards a condition that is received that can become passive again. So that's that balance between passivity and activity. If there's an activity sense that we have to do a change, we have to make a change, that we have a questionable situation, then we also change things so that they can become stable again. That's the point, actually. So this is activity towards a passivity, or maintenance. It is in fact checking if we can maintain the letter A. So, but what can cause this changing of opportunity in general? What causes the perspective of our general maintenance is now not looking inwardly, but looking at the outwardly conditions. The outwardly conditions are expressed with letters in the next letter that is used in every combination of the vowels. First K, then S. The S are the background conditions that play along, that make it so that that when something is maintained, that's the background noise, let's say, that's the background effects, let's say, that's all what is vibrating in the background. And if this doesn't sense right anymore, we sense that in Sa. And Sa is actually this big background in the background. That is the only thing that should decide that there should be a breakthrough to something else, that something is missing. So it is this awareness that we have with Sa, so that we ought to change something or not to change anything, or sense that something needs to change, or something is missing and something needs to be done. This, before we go to action, we check the general background too. But what do we face now? Again, go inwardly again. The next letter will be the letter T. We know that already. So what will we face directly? What will we sense directly? What do we have as foundations? How do we sense that our foundations are still stable and are stable conditions? We know that because of its T functionality, because of its position, its position in space. Is it stable? Is it function? Has it a functionality? Does it still have its functionality? So we check it also in the time frame. So we check it directly, but we also check it in the time conditions. Is it still repeatable? That's where you recognize the number 2 there. Is we have the stable condition, and can we still repeat it? It's in a steady place with Ta, but it is it still can it still remain at its place also after when the time goes by, when the times changes the things, when the timings change, when all things change during time after a while, and so on, in its continuation, in its from number 1 to number 2. Does it still appeal well enough that it can remain stable? That's Ta. And then, of course, after the conditions, the vertical conditions in space, we also check the vertical conditions in timings. So that means, so we know our point that of stable conditions in space. Are the stable conditions still there? We also see, will they remain there? Will they remain there in the timings? Are the conditions changing after a while? So we check these things. Can we continue these things? And the continuations can be checked via the letter N in the timings. The letter N in the Roman letter is in the timing, so it's in the second category that you can see there in the middle. The N is so it's finding the element, finding the moment, that to check out if it still is practical or when it is practical. It's about timing, but also about functionality, not just in space, but functionality in timing. Is it still functional in a different time, in a different space, in a different context, in the differences that occur? That's the N, that's the Na. And with that producing, with that production, it still should be integrated in the repetition, so that we have something that we can keep it running again. So that we again, we reintegrate it and keep it running again. But what does it keep running all the time? I already have expressed the letter there. The H is the viability of what is a condition. Are there general conditions of viability? Yes, of course, they are there as well. And how can we check them? Again, with the general sense, we just check the general sense. Is the general sense of viability still there? And then we will be able to check that. Is this viability repeatable? Can this be repeated? Is it productive? Is a whole sense still productive? That's expressed in the letter H. H is the spatial area of productiveness in the background again. And that can be repeated. And this is the repetition as well. So you have the repetition. So you have, yes, I can have a foundation and I can take it with me and can take it into repetition. That's how you can more or less understand and remember the letter as well. And then we have the area in which it can also be reproduced after a while, also in different sections, in different timings, and then it's still productive, then it's still ha. So now let's check. That's the last couple of letters are all about checking what we have. What will it produce in reality? So we know it's productive, but what will it produce? So we can check it out. We can check the results out. The first conditions that are expressed with the results that it produces are expressed with the letter M. And that's basically says we have conditions that change and that produce something new and so on, something extra. The physicalities of it changes. In space we already sense that something changes. And that is expressed with the letter M. There will come something more or something other from it. It will become more. With a physical end effect, it will become also more in time. And that's what expresses this ma. The ma are the things that are added on top. Byproducts, as a matter of fact. The byproduct, what can be produced on top of each other and can take along with it. We can take it along with us. So this is the plus factor in the physical sense of the word, let's say. Now, after the physical sense, we have the spatial frame. Now we have the time frame. So what can be added extra also in time? What will be extra in time? Before that, ma is more like we have something that we can use as a material that we can reuse and so on. So we can use it more. We have these extras that we can use in space. The next letter will be about extras that you can have after a while only. So what will be there? That's expressed by ya. There is an end effect in time, so after a while only. And this is what you can gain here. You can see, yeah, okay, I can also gain something after a while. That's also possible. You can gain things after a while. That's the plus after a while, not a plus all the time. Here's plus only after a while. And what's the last kind of plus? The plus is the general conditions. What are the general contributions? Not after a while, but all the time. What can we produce all the time? What is productive all the time? How is it expressed? With which letter? With the R. The R is what can be productive all the time. Ra is what is productive all the time. And this is expressed as Ra. So it is that foundation again, which you can produce something, and this effect that you have there is actually you include things. You will include more. You will include. If you have it in a different direction, it's excluded, but here it's included. You include something extra. There will be an effect and an effectiveness in all what it produces via Ra. Okay, and then the last letter. What will be the real end effect? If I truly only focus on the last category, so after a while, and general sense or not general sense, physical or maybe just physical, it can be in any sense. How is that expressed? In what is the remains of everything what we have? That's expressed with wa. W is this wave form of in the end from the after effects in the end. And the after effects are also, there's always in the background this transformation process needed at times when things needed to change. Some things can simply be repeated, but there are things that change, and when they change, they have a transformation process, and then when this transformation process is successful, you can add it, and that's what is actually this foundation with this transformation added. I have it added. That's the wa. That's how you can understand, and the wa. I hope this was a successful expression with which to understand the Hiragana letters in combination with the letter A. Thanks for watching. Thanks. Bye.